Life Management Science Labs would like to acknowledge that we live and produce this podcast on the traditional lands of the Wurundjeri people. We'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the lands of our listeners and our international colleagues. We'd like to thank and pay our respects to their elders past, present, and emerging. Hi everyone, and welcome to Room by Room, the Home Organisation Science Insights podcast, produced by LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. We're champions of life management science, providing structured insights informed by science and inspired by practice on key aspects of conscious living. Each week we bring you scientific and practical insights on each element, with the expert knowledge of professionals in the field. I'm your host, Gabriella Yastra, coming to you from Naarm, Melbourne, Australia. Let's begin. Hi everyone, and welcome to our very special Christmas episode of Room by Room. Today we're talking to Sara Bereika, a certified professional organizer and founder of Sarah Jane Organising, about smart strategies for storing holiday decorations and gift wrap. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining me. Do you mind introducing yourself in a bit more detail so we get to know you?
Sure. As you said, my name is Sara Bereika. I'm a certified professional organizer. I've been organizing for over 18 years, and I'm absolutely obsessed with it and love it. My, motto would be, no judgments. I like to make sure my clients know that there's no judgments coming from me at all, and I think it really eases their mind when I work with them. So it's quite a passion of mine.
Amazing, thank you. And I think a lot of reasons that people don't organize or they hide their house is because they're very ashamed. So I think it's great that you're judgment free.
It's absolutely important. And when they open the door to me, I find it to be such an honor and such a strong thing for them to do, to have a total new person come in. So I take it very seriously, and I make sure that they understand that I do not cast judgment.
That's great. We're going to do a section called Have You Met Sarah? That's where we get to know you through some of your favorite things. The first thing I'd like to know is, what is your favorite book?
So it's hard to pick a favorite, but I'll tell you, I'm currently reading and very much enjoying, I just finished, The 4 Agreements by Don Miguel Ruiz. I don't know if you've read this book.
No.
But, I'm kind of a self-help nut. So any book that's about like self improvements, I am all for it. And that's what this book is. And so it's a book about your kind of code of conduct and how you manage your life. And the 4 questions or the 4 agreements are be impeccable with your word. Don't take anything personally. Don't make assumptions, and always do your best. And if you live by these 4 agreements, you'll be, happier, healthier, have better relationships, and so forth. So I just really am enjoying it, and I highly recommend it.
That sounds great. I think I do try to keep, I think one or two of those, which is try your best. I think that, that's all you can do. So I think that sounds like a very sensible book to me. Maybe I have to give it a read.
Sensible is a perfect word, and it's a very short read. It's not very long at all, and very good.
Love a short read. Got to finish my reading list for the year.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. And have you watched any movies recently that you enjoyed?
Yes. So the movie The Way Back, have you seen this, with Steve Carell?
No.
Toni Collette, and Sam Rockwell?
No, I haven't seen it.
So we just watched it again. I mean, I've seen it years ago, but we watched it again because we wanted to show it to our 14-year-old son. And it's such a good, just feel-good movie. I so recommend it. It's just a movie about unexpected relationship that grows, and it's a funny relationship, and it's an awkward 14-year-old kid, and just him, he's so awkward and funny, and it's just such a great film.
Great. And it's really cool that you're watching it with your 14-year-old.
Oh, it was such a good movie to watch with him. He actually laughed when we did, and it was fun to see him react to it. And It reminded me a lot of the movie Almost Famous, which is also a favorite of mine. Kind of the same, like awkward young boy thing going on. So yeah, it was fun.
I did enjoy Almost Famous, so I'll have to watch that.
Yes.
Good. And do you listen to any podcasts?
Yeah, I do. So Smartless is a favorite. I'm sure a lot of people probably saying that. It's pretty fun. But I actually really enjoy, which isn't really a podcast anymore. They've stopped, but Reply All was really a favorite. I don't know if you ever listened to Reply All.
I did love Reply All.
But there's a new one coming out with them. I think it's called Search Engine, and I'm really excited that that's happening. Haven't really listened to it yet, but and Darknet Diaries is a favorite of mine too.
Oh, what's that one about?
So it just goes into the depths of these things that happen with cybersecurity, like cyber hacking, and just stuff that you can't even imagine that happens. That it's really boggles your mind. And then they go really deep and they find out all these interesting things, about just simple things like someone had a Twitter handle that was really, something they got very early on when Twitter started. So it was a really popular, everyone wanted this handle. And they ended up getting hacked someone hacked them to get the handle. And it was so easy for them to get it. And it explains how they did it and how they got it back. It's very interesting.
Okay, I love that because, since Reply All finished, I haven't had my sort of dose of internet stuff.
Yes. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
And do you have a role model?
So this one was tough because I don't know that I really do, but I will say, so if anyone is a really good orator or orator, however you choose to say it, I just find them fabulous and fascinating. So it can be like Barack Obama, for example, or like Brene Brown or Simon Sinek. Like I could listen to that. I just think when someone is able to speak so clearly with such good connection, that to me is just, I love that. And I think that's so absolutely amazing.
Yeah, that's certainly something that I really aspire to because, working in podcasts, I need to have a good voice. Don't know if I do, but I'm here anyway. But yeah, like being able to listen to them and say, oh, that's what I want to sound like one day, or I want to take this or that from them. Yeah, amazing.
Yes, they speak so succinctly and clearly, and I love listening to them. So I would consider them role models for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. And have you completed any courses that have inspired you?
Yes, I have. So it's been many years, but I obtained my certification in 2009. Maybe 2008. And it was through the Institute for Challenging Disorganization, the ICD. And you take this 18-month course to get certified. And, it wasn't cheap. It was very time consuming, but it was absolutely amazing for me and the career that I'm now in. You have a mentor, you have writing that you have to do, you have actual practice that you have to do with your clients. You have reading materials you have to go through. It was so intensive, and it legitimized the work for me, because so many people would say, you're going to go over to someone's house and organize it? Like someone's going to pay you for that? What is that? So at the time it was really amazing to me because it legitimized this industry and my role in the industry. So that was certainly hands down an amazing course to take.
Yeah, I've spoken to quite a few certified organizers, but I hadn't realized that the course was so intensive. And also, after speaking to so many organizers, I'm like, this is definitely such an important job because you're not just organizing, you're also helping the people to, I guess, change habits.
The behaviors are so fascinating, and I'm one that really likes to go deep with that, and understanding and being curious with them is so intriguing. And there's so many things that you learn in this work that not just anybody can do. So
today we're going to be talking about how to store holiday decorations and gift wrap and all the good stuff that we use over the holiday period. But I do like to start off with, a few definitions. So the first thing I'd like to know is how do you define home organization?
So I define home organization as a feeling. So when you actually feel comfortable in your own home, I feel like that is indicative of home organization. The home isn't overwhelming. You don't feel things are chaotic, and everything in the home has a purpose. I feel like that's what home organization is. And really what that means is you're thinking about your home less. In my opinion, you're not thinking about what do I need to do next, or how do I need to fix this or clean that, or you're not thinking about it at all.
That's the dream, isn't it?
I try to get there myself. It's not easy.
And I mean, maybe speaking, so my partner, he doesn't really see the point of Christmas decorations. So I think that he would say, you mentioned that everything has a use or a purpose. He would say Christmas decorations have no purpose. Would you agree with that?
That's a really good question. So I am on the plane. I don't decorate much, but it's because I don't want to take it down later. I don't want to deal with the stress of it going, if it goes up, I have to take it down. So I just like to keep things really super simple for me mentally. That's important. But I have so many clients where it is important and it really makes the holiday. So I can understand why there's the purpose of it, the purpose of bringing the holidays in and making it feel celebratory.
Mm-hmm.
So some would say there's a purpose.
Yeah. I mean, I'm definitely on the side of decorate. I think, Christmas decorations or decorations in general have a purpose. They make you feel, I guess, a certain way, and specifically at a certain time of year. Particularly, I like having scented candles that smell like what I think Christmas is like. So that the pine tree smell, gingerbread, I think that they trigger some part of my brain that makes me think about when I was a kid. But I also, as every year, as I've been living, out of home for 5 years, and every year the Christmas decorations are less and less, and they stay up for longer and longer because I can't be bothered putting them away.
Yeah, we create quite a task for ourselves, some of us, with the decorating. But I totally get it. I mean, we used to do a fake tree years ago, and then now my partner, he's like, we're getting real tree because he wants the smell. He wants the smell of the pine, and he feels like that makes it more like Christmas. So I'm like, sure, let's do that. I'm not opposed to that at all. So tradition is also very deep in all of us, and I think that makes it even more important to a lot of us. We are very, it's important for us to have those traditions.
Yes. So now that we know why we decorate, you mentioned it that the worst part is not necessarily putting up Christmas decorations, but it's the taking down. So I'd love to learn, how can we make this process easier on ourselves?
Well, the fewer things you put up, the fewer things you have to take down. But there's, I think we get caught up in commercialism a little bit during this time of year. I think we get caught up in some of the wrong things. And I think that if we can stop and just ask ourselves what's really important and just constantly keep asking that question, it might help us reduce the trying so hard to make it feel or seem a certain way.
Yeah. Okay. So I mentioned before for myself, I think smell's really important. So maybe instead of putting up a big Christmas tree and putting decorations everywhere, I could put up a few Christmas decorations, but concentrate on having candles or the smell of Christmas.
Yeah, absolutely. Sticking to maybe one area of the home, maybe just the mantle, maybe just the tree. And maybe, and I talk a lot about this too, creating experiences around it. So for me, when it's time to decorate the tree, my husband and my son are not really there to do that. We've gotten into this habit where I think they think it's my job to do it, or I've taken on the job. Maybe we can unpack that later. So anyway, the experience of it all, right, is supposed to be togetherness, being with family. So if that's the piece that's really important, then it makes total sense to do the decorating and setting up. But if you're not even doing that, if you don't even have the family joining you or the participation from others, then maybe that there's some rethinking that needs to be done.
Yeah, that's true. Like in my family, we were very big on Christmas growing up. And so it was a whole thing, we'd have to wait till everyone's available and then we put the Christmas tree up together, we'd decorate together. It was very much a family thing. Now that I've moved out, my partner doesn't really celebrate Christmas. He doesn't want to be involved.
Oh, no.
And so it's just me putting on Christmas music and putting up my decorations. And I feel a lot less motivated to do it. Mm.
Yeah, you've had a transition there.
Yeah.
A new lifestyle for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know. And I don't mean to make my husband and son sound awful and curmudgeon, but that's not it at all. It's just, I think some people find it more important than others.
And I think as you said, you've got to think about why you're putting up the Christmas decorations and what's the purpose. If for me, I guess, if it's really important to do with family, why am I trying to do it with my partner who doesn't want to do it? Maybe I should go back to my dad and say, hey, do you want some help putting up his Christmas decorations? And then not put up my own decorations. Maybe maybe I should do that. I'll call my dad.
Yes, absolutely. Keep the tradition alive. I mean, and he would love to be with you. The experience is what it's all about. So, and maybe have your significant other join you when you do that with your dad so that maybe he can understand this is why we do it. It's so fun, right?
I'm not sure if he would enjoy that, to be honest.
Okay.
He doesn't like being told what to do.
Oh, no. I don't either. Yeah. I get it.
I mean, same. So for example, if I am, helping my dad decorate, do you have any tips on the best way to, I guess, get going and start setting up everything?
So, I mean, if you plan the day, then you obviously have a great start. You know that it's going to happen on this day. You know that family's going to be there to help, whatever that may be. That's a great way to begin. And then that that's the day you're pulling things out to be put up. And what needs to come out versus what can stay still stored. So you're not necessarily pulling out everything, perhaps, but that can be helpful. And, maybe there's only certain things you do with family, but certain things and other things you do on your own. So you can kind of compartmentalize the task and say, okay, everybody's going to put the ornaments on the tree, but not everybody's going to do the mantle, So you're kind of keeping it simple that way. Am I answering your question?
Yeah, I think so. That makes sense.
Okay, good.
Yeah. And I guess a lot of this also depends on how you've taken everything apart the year before. My habit is I tend to have a box and I just throw everything in. And then every year I dig through it and I'm like, I don't really like that one. I don't really like that one. Oh, here's the one I like. Do you have any recommendations or tips on how to organize your box so that it's easy when you're decorating?
Yes. So the optimum time is definitely when you're taking down the year before to really weed through what you have, what you really enjoyed. Maybe there are some pieces that you noticed and they're looking a little drab. And maybe I could use a little update on that. That's the perfect time to purge. And it's also when you're putting away, the perfect time to put them away in such a manner that you're thinking about next year and maybe how, it's so fresh to you how you put things up this year, you'll think about it for next year. And I will say there are containers even that help with that. So, I know we might get to that a little later, but I can certainly explain that now. But there are ornament containers. They've got compartments. And, I don't typically recommend using something so specific for organizing. I like to use a bin and be able to use it in multiple ways. But when it comes to something like holiday storage, something like an ornament container is so exceptional because when you're putting away, everything has its own compartment. You know that you've even captured everything because I can't tell you how many times I've left an ornament on a tree and then tossed the tree and then lost the ornament. So if an ornament's missing, which is really nice. And everything has its place. So you're not thinking about how am I going to pack this up? How am I going to get this to fit? It's all done already. So that's a really nice streamlined way to keep it nice and simple. And there's also, with tree lights and things like that, having one container for the tree lights, having one container for the mantle itself, let's say, or the banister itself. So whatever it is that you use in those places, storing it all together in one contained bin, I think is really optimum when it comes to holiday storage.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So yeah, instead of, just taking everything and tipping it into a big box and next year, like pulling things out, where does this go? Where does this go? Have it all labeled and in separate boxes.
Yes.
Yeah. So you did mention, storing with having a specific, I guess, bauble box where you can have each bauble in its own place. Do you have some other tips on you mentioned lights. Are there any really great ways to store lights? Because mine all tend to get tangled up with the tinsel and then I spend half an hour trying to untangle everything.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's like you read my notes. I have a solution for that. So,
oh my gosh, thank you.
So, yeah, and that when you're putting the lights away is really when you need to be like slow and methodical about it because you don't want your lights to be like a tangled mess, like you said. So, a simple piece of cardboard, flat piece of cardboard, or even like a roll of from the wrapping paper roll. If you use something like that to wrap the lights around, and then when you put it in the bin, it's kind of like a file system, so it's and it's cardboard. I mean, everybody has it in their house, especially after opening all the gifts. So it's really a great way to keep your lights from getting tangled up and getting broken and busted. And then even further, the lights have extra bulbs and extra little, I don't know, fuse pieces or whatever they are on there.
Electrical bits. I don't know.
Electrical bits. You can attach them to the cardboard that they're with so that you don't lose them. And then you just don't have the stress of untangling them when it comes time to decorate next year.
That's so smart. And especially because, I have several rolls of, wrapping paper that I've finished the wrapping paper and now I've got the cardboard rolls. And I'm like, I'll use these for something one day. And this is it. I'm going to use it for this.
Totally. And put a little notch in the end. And then you can keep the end of the cord from getting tangled up inside so that, you have them all together.
Great. Thank you. And so we've talked about the gift wrap now. How do we store gift wrap? Mine, I store them in the corner of my study. and they gradually get dustier and dustier over the year because they don't fit into any boxes that I have. And I don't want them to get smashed up or wrinkled because, they're supposed to look nice. Do you have any recommendations for that?
So under the bed is like a really great place to store rolls of wrapping paper. However, I store paper in just a basket or like a trash can type low trash can, and I just sit them in there. But that's the paper I use all year round. And this is another case where a specific container really works really nicely. And they make containers for wrapping. And they're great for wrapping paper. However, if you buy really long rolls of wrapping paper, they're not going to fit. And it's the most frustrating thing when I'm working with my clients and they have all this great wrapping paper and it's all the same length. And then you get this one roll that just won't fit. So another tip I'd like to add is just really consider buying all of the same width wrapping paper. It makes for storing a lot easier. I know it's challenging when you have kids because you have these really big boxes that you need to wrap. And so I get it. But that's my recommendation, is to really consider going for the wrapping paper container.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'll have to investigate, see if I can find one of those. And if you've got one of those really long ones, everything that year will just have to be wrapped in the one wrapping paper. So that you don't have to store it for next year.
You don't have to store it. That's right. Make that a goal, and then you don't have to store it. If you do have to store it, a couple of trash bags wrapped around it, I think is very sufficient. And, putting it with the rest of your holiday decor is totally sufficient.
Mm-hmm. And what about for things like ribbons and gift tags? Every year I buy new gift tags because I lose all of the ones I had from the year before.
So when I have a place for all of the gift wrapping things, ribbons, tags, tape, scissors, everything I need to wrap a gift, the string to put on the tags, stickers to put on for labeling, everything. I put it in the container and I keep it together all year. And so I never have to look for the scissors and I never have to look for the tape, and it's all in this one container. And I love actually gift wrapping myself, so I keep it out all the time. But if you don't really wrap as often, and you could store it with the holiday, but I like having that bin.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I'm the kind of person who gift wraps once a year. Everything else can just go in a bag and just, that's it.
Yes. A lot of people do that. And it's great.
Yeah, actually my partner, because he can't wrap gifts, every year he gives me a really badly wrapped gift. So now he just has a box. It's a Christmas box, and he puts whatever is my gift in that.
I like his style. He's minimal.
Yeah. And then
and
then I know what's mine.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
And I guess I could keep all of the wrapping stuff in that box. Smart.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The problem with wrapping as well is I want to keep all the wrapping paper for the next year, reuse some of it instead of just ripping through it and then throwing it in the bin. Is that a recommended practice? Do you have any tips for how to store maybe odd bits and sizes of wrapping paper?
Well, it's certainly an eco-friendly way to do it. And I love anything that's eco-friendly. Or eco. A lot of people say eco or eco. Eco-friendly. So reusing paper and ribbons is definitely something I suggest and recommend. I will say it doesn't always look that great the second time around. Depending on the paper you have. But that's really kind of why tissue is so great. And wrapping in tissue, like tissue always can, even if it's wrinkled, it can still be, look so cute. But, flattening it or even adding it to a roll that's been emptied by other paper, that might keep it in a good condition for the next year. So, I mean, I can certainly see that being a useful way of storing it and reusing it.
Great, thank you. And then you can store it, I guess, with the other rolls in your special wrapping paper storage box.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. And so another problem that we come across is that if you don't store, particularly the glass baubles and things, they can break. And then, when you're unwrapping everything, you can cut yourself quite easily. Do you have any recommendations on how to store things that are maybe a bit more fragile, a bit more dangerous?
So if they're contained properly and they're put in a bin that has these nice little compartments, it's so unlikely that they'll break. As a matter of fact, most of my ornaments break because of my cats, not because of the storage that they're in. Let's be frank. Anyway, but I like to use shredded paper. A lot of my clients often have a shredder in their home, and they often have paper shreds in the shredder. Mm-hmm. So if you put that in with these ornaments, it's going to be the packing that's going to keep them contained. We always have an overabundance of these plastic bags from the supermarket. So using those as packing is always nice and helpful too, to keep them. And if you do put them inside of the bag and they do break, then the pieces aren't going to hurt you or
that's true.
Hit you. Mm-hmm.
Just put the whole bag straight in the bin.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. And possibly off topic, but now you've mentioned cats. How do you keep your cats from breaking things?
Well, I think so. There's always the squirt bottle, right? The spray bottle is a useful tool, although it doesn't work very well with my cats. I think my cats think it's funny. But I will say we even have to protect the lights on our tree from our cat because our cat will chew the light. So, which is so we wrap the cord in foil a little bit to keep him from doing it. I mean, these things, right, that we love our pets so much. But I can't say, so I don't use a lot of glass ornaments anymore. I use, cloth, ornaments or like stuffed animal type ornaments or things that won't break, like crocheted ornaments, or I even tie bows on a sprig of the tree, and the bows are the ornament, and then cats can't really harm it too much.
That's true. Very important. Because my cat also, I think he would love anything on a Christmas tree. We haven't put a Christmas tree up around him yet because I could just see him just climbing his way up to the top.
They will. I mean, they think it's there for them.
Everything's there for them. It's their house.
Yeah. It's their world. We're just living in it.
Exactly.
They're letting us live there.
Yeah. So how important is it to regularly update and assess our storage system for holiday decorations? And what are some signs that indicate a need for reorganization or changes in the way that we store things?
So there are three main methods that I think can be helpful with this, that I thought would be useful to share here. So, when it comes time to, identify when something might be a little too much or overpacked or need an assessment, it's proximity, accessibility, and containment. So when you see that items are no longer in the place that they should be, or that they are, so if holiday items begin to be stored elsewhere in the home, but they're not all in one place, that might be indicative of time to dwindle it down or reassess and start to reorganize. Accessibility. So if you're finding that getting to the holiday ornaments or even anything in your home at any point in time, if the accessibility is getting difficult, things are getting piled in front, they're hard to access, then that might be a sign that it's time to just dial back, go through some things and do some purging or just reorganizing. And then if items that were once contained are no longer contained in the bins or the areas in which they used to be, then I would say that's also another area to address, and that's also a sign that it might be time to rethink this, reorganize it, do some purging.
Yeah. Okay. So like, you've now got too much different types of gift wrap and they're no longer fitting into one box, and you got some that's sticking out and or just lying and getting dusty. So that's a time to maybe think about stopping buying and reusing what you've got.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so is this something that, maybe we only have to do maybe every few years, or just if you've noticed that there's something wrong, or should we be checking this, every year?
I guess it depends on how often you consume. So, for me, I consume very infrequently. So I don't need to assess these spaces very often. And I guess it depends on, how important that activity is to you, how important the holidays are to you. I mean, so many of my clients have so much holiday that they could certainly probably go a few years, they could probably go through every quarter and get through a lot, but I would say it just depends on how much you consume and how much you have. Mm-hmm. But again, how often do you want to be going through this stuff? So that's another question too. You don't want to do this all the time. This isn't something you have time for. So let's make it small enough that we can manage it maybe on every couple of years. Mm-hmm. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. Okay. So instead of saying, you have to do it every 6 months or something, maybe make it so that you buy less and then you only have to go through it every few years.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you. And so, during the Christmas time, it's very hard, I think, to keep organized because not only are you trying to put up Christmas decorations, you're also, you've got maybe guests coming around, you've got lots of things happening. So what is the practice that you do to manage organization in your home during the holidays?
So what I call it is I do the purge before the presents.
Uh-huh.
So when it's around mid-November for us, or just after Thanksgiving for us here, mm-hmm. I really take the time to go through everything in the house and purge, because I know new stuff is coming in. And this was this was happening quite often when my son was even younger. It's not happening as much now as he's getting older. But when he was younger, the clothes were constantly changing because he was growing, and the toys were constantly changing. So I really needed to be cognizant of more is coming in. I need to make room for what's coming in. So I would frequently get into a habit of purging before the holidays hit. Mm-hmm. And there was a lot of benefits to it. So one of them was I was actually able to, I'm making space for new things coming in. I always think decluttering is a good idea. But I was also able to assess maybe if something was broken or something was missing a part, or there was something that was the wrong size that my son or I needed. So I was actually able to make a list of, things that could be given to me for the holidays. So it worked out kind of nicely. So it does help in that respect. So you're not just getting random things.
Definitely. I always make a list, and because my family's always asking for a list, and I'm always sitting there like, I don't know what I need. I don't know what I want. So I think it's really good to see, maybe declutter, see what are the holes in your lifestyle, in your home, and then put those on the list.
Put those on the list. Yes. Yeah. And do that pre-purge so you're ready.
Yeah. Yeah. And then the other thing is that I guess if you have a list for family, they're not going to buy you something that you don't need.
Right. And I am a huge advocate for clutter-free gifting at the same time. So another practice that I use outside of the purge before presents is clutter-free gifting. And I try really hard to educate my family and friends what that looks like and what that is. Because I don't want more stuff. I don't need more stuff. In fact, it makes me more stressed. So you are giving me something and you think it's great and lovely, but actually it's making me more anxious and more stressed. So, if you want to be a great gift giver, this is what would be, for me, a great gift. And that means that the item does not collect dust on a shelf. It doesn't sit around the house. It's all about experiences. So I explain, what would really be nice is to spend time with you in this capacity. So it would be really nice to spend time with you by going to a concert together. I know this concert's coming. Can we go to this concert? Can we go to this show? Someone that likes sporting events, same mentality. So tickets to shows, things of that nature, even consumables are a non-clutter-free gift. So wine, cheese, baked goods, food delivery, something like steak or meat or things like that. I mean, who doesn't love food? So I always recommend something along those lines. And even gift cards are really a nice thing to do. And it's also important when you give the gift card to remind the person to use the gift card because they do get lost in the shuffle and they can get forgotten. But so I always suggest if you're going to get a gift card, put it down somewhere to remind the person to use it. So that's another practice I like to follow around the holidays. And it can be a little challenging for some, but I think it's good practice.
Yeah. I think with gift cards, I used to work in a model train shop, and when people used to come in to get gifts for their loved ones who were really into trains, they're like, I want to buy a train. I want to buy a train for this person. We ask them a series of questions. What kind of trains do they like? What size tracks do they have? What era or country do they like? If they don't know those questions, we say, get a gift card. And people are really resistant to getting gift cards because they're like, no, it's not thoughtful. People don't want that. I want to get them a thing. And we used to say to them, if people are really particular about what they want, and you've thought about it as far as that you want to get them this hobby related item, but you don't know exactly what they want, it's way more thoughtful to get them something they actually want than to, I guess, force this thing they don't really want upon them.
That is one of the biggest challenges with clutter-free gifting is that experience of them opening the gift and having something in that moment and or feeling less personal, making, people think it's less personal. But in actuality, it's the opposite. I mean, in some cases, it could be less personal, if it's just a gift card for coffee, at Starbucks or something. But oftentimes it's creating an event and an experience to do with that person. So horseback riding, air balloon ride, jumping out of an airplane. I mean, something like that would be like the most amazing gift. I mean, I wouldn't want to do that, but my husband would love to do that. He would take that gift and love it. But then there's the experience of opening it in that moment and not having that thing to play with or to touch and feel, that tangible item in front of you. So that is a challenge with clutter-free gifting for sure. But I think that kind of wakens the creativity in me, and I am very much a creative person. So I like to be fun with it, like maybe make the gift, put it inside a box, which is inside a box, which is inside a box, which is inside another box, so it's an experience in and of itself to open it. I don't know. So that to me seems to be more thoughtful.
Or maybe pair it with, as you said, a consumable good, maybe some baked biscuits. So you get the thing and then you also get the experience.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got it.
Perfect. I'm going to be getting everyone horseback riding gift cards this year.
Will they like that?
Probably not.
Well, there's bourbon or wine or things like that you can get. I have a whole list on my blog. I'm happy to share with you.
Okay, great. I'll take a look at that and maybe we'll put that in our show notes as well so everyone can get some ideas.
It's chock full of ideas. Yes.
Perfect. Great. Especially for last minute Christmas ideas, because you can buy a gift card online and give it to them the next day and not have to wait shipping.
That's true.
Mm.
But we're thoughtful gift givers, so we're going to be thoughtful.
Yep. So we're going to move on to the questions from the audience. We've got a couple today. So our first question is, can you provide tips for efficiently organizing and storing items that are used for multiple occasions throughout the year, such as versatile decorations or wrapping supplies?
Well, for one, if it's a versatile piece of decor, like that is awesome, right? Like multi-purpose anything, I think is a really great way to go. And in terms of storing that item, I would, it's just about making sure that it's accessible more often than it would be just once a year, which I think is great. It kind of reminds me of like my linens, for example, like that I use on the table. I use I don't necessarily buy red because that would be just seem to be more Christmas than, but I will do like a nice gold, right? And then gold can be used anytime. So things like that, I think, make the most sense, actually. And I think that you need less of that. That means that you'll need less things. So it's going to be optimum in your storage situation.
Mm-hmm. And so I guess, keep those items in a more accessible place rather than maybe the back of the garage.
Yeah, you would have to because you're using them more often. And then labeling them properly, because typically I would say I always recommend labeling by holiday. So Easter's in one container or a few containers. Christmas is in another set of containers. But if you have multi-purpose items, then it could just be labeled holiday or celebration or, something like that, where that it's that thing that you need the most often.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you. And our second question from the audience is, are there any DIY storage solutions or repurposing ideas for common household items that individuals can use to create cost-effective and efficient organization systems?
So definitely the cardboard, right, for the lights that we talked about. I mean, Ziploc plastic baggies, I don't love using plastic all the time, but if you have them, they're fabulous for the hooks for the ornaments to the tiny little bits that you have for holiday and, sitting them inside of a bin, like filing them. They're just great. And you can label the bag, which I think is wonderful. And I think even, and they keep things, dust free and clean and safe. So things like that, or even reusable plastic containers. I think those are super helpful. Those can be, you can put small tags inside, reused ribbon in there. I am all for reusing whatever you have in the house for those small things. And really, like, even just like a trash bag, it can be so useful. Wrapping a wreath in a trash bag can keep it from getting dusty and getting too squished. And garland, using that and putting that in a trash bag, I think that's totally useful and makes sense. And a regular old nail in the wall, I think is a fabulous way to hang a wreath or hang the garland or keep it out off the floor in the space that you use for storing, I think is a very useful tool for something like this.
So hanging up your wreath maybe in storage?
Yes, I do. So hanging wreaths, I think, is the smartest thing to do because then they won't get so squished.
Uh-huh.
And a squished wreath is kind of a pain to fluff it up again. And then wrapping a bag around it so it doesn't get too dusty. Absolutely, I would hang. They also make wreath bins specific for wreaths, which are very large and bulky, but I will say, and they're plastic, right? So eco-friendly, not very eco-friendly, but they keep the wreath intact. And I mean, wreaths can be really expensive. So if someone has a lot of wreaths and that's their thing, then I think they should certainly go with buying one. Mm-hmm. But they do have those.
And I guess they're being reused, every year. So
absolutely.
I guess the benefit of the box is once you have one, you don't have to keep, getting a new plastic bag and wrapping it.
Correct.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And if our listeners want to find out more about you and more about your work, where can they find you?
So they can find me online at www.sarajaneorganizing.com. And that is Sara with no H. So it's SARAJANE organizing.com. I have a blog there, and I try to provide very helpful information as much as I can to anyone who will read. I'm on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook, Sara Jane Organizing. So come and find me.
Yeah, great. Thank you. And we'll make sure that those links go into our show notes so you can find them. And we'll also make sure that your blog post about some clutter-free gift ideas are in there because I know that it's always useful to have a list prepared so you don't have to do too much thinking.
Yes. I mean, I think it's a very extensive list, a very helpful list. So it's absolutely something that should be bookmarked and used anytime.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
You've been listening to Room by Room, produced by the Home Organization Science Labs, a division of LMSL, the Life Management Science Labs. More episodes like this from across 10 life management perspectives can be found by searching LMSL on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, and other podcasting apps available on your smart devices. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider rating our show, sharing it, and subscribing to our channel, as it helps other people find it so we can grow and bring you more quality resources. More of our work can be found on our website at ho.lmsl.net, where you can join our movement. I'm Gabriella Yastra. Thanks for tuning in.